This hands-on card activity will help you learn the terms and the sequencing in the rock cycle through practice. I'm going to provide three options to make the cards and three rounds of this activity to use to learn through practice. The three rounds will be flashcards, words, and definitions. So let's look at the options to make our cards. First of all, you have one option, a paper that has 10 vocabulary terms on it. And on the back side, it has definitions already written with some underlines of key words. So this option of your cards is already made for you. You can print out a digital copy of this if you need to. Option two, it also looks the same on the front side with 10 of the words in the rock cycle, but on the back side, you'll see that it has the meanings or the definitions with blanks that are not filled in. So using this method is even more helpful if you fill in these words using the learning that you've already done about the rock cycle because you're practicing with those words and thinking through the meanings even better. This option is also available for you in digital format if you want to print it out. Now, the next option is if you don't have a way to print it out or don't have these pre-made cards, you can use a blank sheet of paper. You can just use notebook paper if you want. And you can see here, just lined paper can even work. So all you need to do is to draw across three lines or two lines to make three solid rows going across, and then one line in the middle, and then divide each of those halves in half again, which will make 12 different boxes. Then two of the boxes you can just X out because you won't be using it all. Then go ahead and put the words on one side. So for example, you might put in the word sedimentation and the word sediment. And the best thing to do, oops, I forgot an N there. The best thing to do is to put your initials in the upper corner so that you don't get your cards mixed up with anyone else's. And then also to cut your cards out first before you put the definitions on the back side. This makes it a lot easier to know which card is which. So you will need some scissors, something to write with, and a piece of paper to do this method. And then you can put sedimentation, sediment, and then you can write the definition on the back side. So all three of these methods are very good ways to make your cards. And when you have your cards made, they might look something like this. On one side, you have handwritten cards. Now I wrote out these words on one side. On the back side, I have the pre-printed definitions. Whichever method you want to use, you want to make sure that you do have all 10 cards that are important for us to learn the rock cycle. So now we're going to look at the three different activities or rounds that we will do in order to help learn this through a hands-on. So first off, you now have flashcards. And you've used flashcards, I'm sure, in the past before. And so you'll take all of your cards and you'll put them together like so, and then you can flash them to yourself, whether you're in the car or on the bus or by yourself. And you can read the definition, and then you can think of what word that is out of the 10 different options that we have. And then you can turn it over to check that that word is the correct word. You can even practice spelling that word to make sure that you have the correct spelling. So you can go through by definitions, or with flashcards, you can also do it in reverse. You can look at the word and then say to yourself what the definition is. Now, the definition is not important to be word for word, but what is important is you know the meaning of that word. That is round 1. Round 2, I will say too that you can also have somebody flash these cards to you so they can show you and they look at the definition on the other side and they can give you hints as well if you need to. So you can ask your brothers or sisters or your friends. You can do this over the telephone. You can do this with your parents or aunts or uncles, anyone that's willing to help you with your flashcards. Okay, that's round 1. Round 2, we will take all of these words and spread them out in your table area. And we're going to start in round 2 with the word side up. In round 3, you will use the definition side up. Okay, and do the same thing as round 2, but with the definition side up. So what I'm going to show you now is round 2 with the word side up. What do you do? Well, we are going to put these in sequence in the rock cycle. So you remember the rock cycle in its most basic form is a circle. That's not all of it, but it's like the rubber on a tire, a bike tire or a car tire. And we want it to go around clockwise, at least in our model. So in this model, we want to remember that there is a spot. We'll use this yellow marker to represent the surface of the earth, okay? The ground that we walk on. Everything below it is below ground and everything above it is above ground, okay? And we'll also use this Post-it note to represent the sun shining down in this area, okay? So that represents what is above the ground. So let's just start off with how about we start off with a process? Now you remember that there are 5 processes and then there are also 5 other things that are either types or forms of rock. So we're going to start off with a process of change. Process is what changes one rock from one type to another type. So let's use the one of weathering. Okay, so here we have the weathering card, and we remember that weathering can break down rock through wind, through rain, through the sun shining on things and breaking it apart. So we'll put this over here because we know this happens above the ground. And then in our model, we know that the weathering process is going to break rocks apart into smaller pieces. So what are those pieces called? Those small little pieces we know are sediment. So the next in line going around our clock or our wheel from weathering is sediment. The process of weathering breaks down rock to make it into sediment. Now, after sediment is made, what is the process that it goes through? Remember, we alternate type or form and then process, then a type or form and then a process. So sediment can get made into sedimentary rock. So sediment to sedimentary rock through the process of sedimentation. So here's the process, sedimentation. And we remember that sedimentation includes things like erosion, deposition, compaction, and cementation. All of those things. So here we go to sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rock starts off above the surface, above the yellow marker. But what happens when we start pushing that down into the ground? We call it deformation. Yeah, so deformation causes that rock to get pushed down into the ground. It's increased pressure and temperature when it is way down deep underneath the ground. And those forces of deformation create the rock that we call metamorphic rock. So just like a butterfly goes through metamorphosis, so does rock that has gone through deformation. It becomes metamorphic rock. Now, metamorphic rock can be melted down into magma, which we know is in the very center of the earth or I guess I should say, in the mantle of the earth, way down deep, and it makes up the majority of the inside of the earth. And that magma, as it starts to cool, it crystallizes. So it hardens off and cools off. And sometimes we call this crystallization. Sometimes it turns into igneous rock that stays underground. And sometimes the igneous rock comes spewing, is made by spewing out of a volcano, the lava, and settling on top of the ground. And so we have igneous rock below the surface and igneous rock above the surface. And that's why it's split here by the marker. So now we have the rock cycle, the basic rock cycle, and how rocks change from one type to another. Now you also know, to get more complicated, that you can have some changes that take place going through the middle here. And that's a challenge for you to think through as well. But your goal in this round, in round 2 of our activity, is to put all of these in order around the rock cycle correctly and fully without any help. Now, I want you to try this first without any help. Then, if you get stumped, then you can look at the answer key of a model of the rock cycle and add one in. Okay, and then do it again and keep working on it until you can do it totally without any help from the answer key. So after you have successfully done round 2, which is not just doing it, laying it out this way, but doing it from memory without any help from anybody else, after you can successfully do that, then you have completed at least round 2. Then you'll mix up all of your cards and you'll turn them over to the other side, to our definition side, or your meanings. And then you'll mix them all up and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to start off with a card's meaning and you're going to try to figure out, where does it go? So here we have the process of increasing pressure or temperature causing rocks to change shape. What is that? That is the process of deformation. So deformation is going to go in our model right around in this area. Then you'll take another card and you'll go around and put these all in the order that they need to be. So this completes our video about the rock cycle card activity. These 10 vocabulary terms you will be better able to spell and to know the meanings, and really importantly, know the sequence that they get placed in around the rock cycle.